The city of Downey was first founded back in the 1800s. It has grown many times, from fields of orange trees to Apollo capsules. It was even the birthplace of singers Richard and Karen Carpenter, and hosts the oldest McDonald's still serving burgers. We'll talk about some of those things and meet some of Downey's people on this edition of Fox 11 News In Depth, 52 and 52, where we're spending 52 weeks looking at 52 of your communities. We decided to begin our journey here at Downey City Hall. There's good reason for that. We wanted to talk to somebody who really knows this town, so we're going to go talk to Carol Rowland, who's been here for decades. Come on. How long have you been here?
I've lived in Downey for 46 years.
46 years. It's a long time.
It is a long time.
And so in that 46 years, how has this community changed?
When I got in, it was very small town atmosphere. Good neighbors, good neighborhoods. The neighborhoods are still good. But on my neighborhood, we had kids. Today, there's no kids. They're older people such as myself. Downey Avenue, there was 2 mortuaries. So on Saturday night and Friday night, it just rolled up. You could walk down the block and there was nothing. Today, you go there Friday, Saturday night, and you can't find a parking spot. It's just in the last 10 years, it's just exploded.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that Downey went through a big redevelopment. I think that they wanted to keep Downey residents here. I think that Downey had a group of citizens that always were concerned that there was nothing to do for their kids, there was nothing to do for them. We didn't have restaurants, we didn't have theaters, we didn't have shopping centers. We had a city council that kind of really perked up their ears. And Downey was actually very fortunate that we had land. We had the Aerospace land that we inherited when that industry dried up. And so I think we had 14 acres that we were able to develop. I mean, there's not many cities that are this old that has space that they can do that kind of development.
When we look at the map behind you, that's a pretty large area there of community.
Correct.
Yeah, and so when you moved here 46 years ago, it didn't look like that.
You know what? It pretty much did look like that.
Okay.
It was pretty dense at the time, but there were still open spaces. I can't say that there are many open spaces today in Downey. They either have put multi-units on them, or they have done shopping centers, or we've tried to redevelop and do little parks.
But what brought the people in here?
Well, I'll tell you what brought them. For me, it's because where it's centrally located.
Okay, but there was the aerospace industry.
Right.
Then that went away, and those people that were part of that may have gone away.
Correct.
But what came in to replace that?
What came in to replace that? Well, the shopping centers, the promenade, we have Coca-Cola, we have Kaiser as a regional center, and just where Downey's located. Downey is actually in between LA and Orange County. And what I think we had at some time is because we had the aerospace industry and we had all those families that came here, I think that they really started to see that Downey had a great quality of life. Let's stay in Downey. Maybe I work in downtown, maybe I work in Orange County. But Downey, because we have the 4 freeways by us, they could stay here. Downey, the other thing that kept them here is Downey has its own school system. Downey is a full-service city, so we have our own police department. We have our own fire department. We have our own water. We have 20 wells. We're able to pump our own water. We have a symphony. We have 4 museums in Downey. Through this expansion, we actually have restaurants now where people can go and eat, and they don't really have to leave the city of Downey.
And so Downey, from the time you moved here to now, has changed.
Yes.
Even though the map behind you doesn't look that much different.
It really doesn't.
It has changed in what way?
The demographics have changed. The businesses have changed. We have more restaurants. We have more entertainment. We have more traffic. More traffic brings, we have our social issues, but we're dealing with them.
Are you? Are you dealing with them?
We're trying to deal with them.
Because sometimes those things are very challenging for any city.
Well, I think because we have so many civic organizations that even though we may not be able to resolve what's going on, we can at least meet and we can at least share our own grievances.
Talk about it.
Yeah, and say, is there something we can do in this area of the city? Like this morning, I belong to a group called Gangs Out of Downey.
Gangs Out of Downey is a non-profit organization comprised of many different stakeholders within Downey.
It isn't so much that we talk about the gangs, but the people that go there, they'll say, oh, you know, this happened in my neighborhood, and we go, oh, really?
What are you doing about the gangs?
Well, we're trying to be very proactive.
And is homelessness an issue here?
Homeless is an issue here as well.
And what are you doing about that?
We have, the city has actively hired a group called Coast to Coast. And actually when we have a sighting of, like if someone calls in and say, you know, we have a small encampment of homeless people, we will contact Coast to Coast, and they will actually physically go to where the homeless people are, and they try to give them resources. We have churches that we put hygiene containers together. We have places where we feed them.
So basically you try to take care of the homeless
right,
as if they're your own.
We're trying.
What does the city need?
What does the city need? This city, well, it needs less traffic. That's what it really
I'll
needs.
buy that one. I'm from a place with a lot of traffic too, which is LA, right?
I think it needs a lot less traffic. You know, I have to tell you, Downey is, all the social ills that we have, I think that through some of our civic organizations, we try to address them. I think we need more land.
More land?
That's what Downey needs. If we had more land, if we could spread out and have more land, that would be wonderful.
If you could make that map larger.
If I could make this map larger.
Then it would be a better place.
It would be paradise.
Downey is proud of its aerospace heritage. When we come back, we'll take you inside a museum that showcases Downey's past. This is the Columbia Memorial Space Center. It's one of the big attractions here in Downey with all kinds of hands-on exhibits. Like this thing right here, all I have to do is push this button. Whoa! And we have lunch. This is Ben Dickow with the Columbia Memorial Space Center. He's the president and the executive director. And what do you have here?
We have a space museum and hands-on science learning center for the public.
And when you say hands-on, what do you mean?
We have a ton of experiences downstairs and upstairs where people can actually get their hands on science, building circuits, experimenting with parachutes, all kinds of things that bring science alive to people.
And liftoff of Space Shuttle Columbia with a...
It's called the Columbia Memorial because the Columbia was a tragic situation.
Absolutely. In 2003, the Columbia Space Shuttle broke up when it was coming back from orbit, and we are the national memorial to that.
And so when you talk about the kinds of things you have here, talk about how this started and what the goal was.
So the institution started in the early 2000s after there was a big NASA facility here for, gosh, it goes back to 1929 as aircraft manufacturing.
Even before the space program?
Even before the space program. In fact, about almost 20% of all the airplanes in World War II were built right here on this site.
Really?
Yeah, and then after the war, transitioned into rockets, and then in the 60s it was the home for Apollo. So all the Apollo spacecraft that went to the moon were designed and built here, and then the space shuttles designed and built here. So when the plant closed in 2000, the city of Downey said we have to commemorate this great aerospace legacy, so we're going to build a museum. A few years into the project, they decided to make it more of a hands-on science learning center, and then have the museum part be really special times when we can bring out artifacts from our history.
Let me ask you, how many students, patrons, guests have you had come through this place?
Oh man, this is our 10th anniversary. We opened on October 23rd, 2009. In 10 years, we've had, well over 500,000 people.
500,000?
Yeah, we're up to almost 100,000 a year now. And of that, close to 50% are school kids coming in on field trips.
What do you think the draw is?
The space program?
Well, I understand that, but
yeah.
The space program has advanced dramatically.
Sure, yeah.
Since the Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the memorial aspect of this that causes people to come out?
Part of it, and we want to honor the fact that we're a memorial, but the beauty of this place is that it really is trying to speak to the generation that's in now. The kids who are coming through here were born after Columbia. That's not relevant to them. What's relevant to them is technology and the science experiences that we have here. We have LA's only public robotics lab downstairs. So kids come in here and they build and program robots. Again, all the hands-on stuff. That's what draws people in, and then we kind of bring in the history and the Columbia message when they're in the building.
You've talked to a lot of these kids that have come through. What kinds of things do they ask?
Oh man, you know, when can I go to the moon? How do you go to the bathroom in space? How the heck does a huge rocket?
How do you go to the bathroom in space?
Very carefully and with a hose.
Okay, yeah, and that is true.
Yeah, exactly.
That is true because
Exactly.
that's the design of the device that they created. And so these kids, they come in not knowing stuff and they leave knowing a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. Inspired, you know, our mission is to ignite a community of creative and critical thinkers. We're hoping that every kid who comes out the door or goes out the door here is ignited and inspired and fired up about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And that they go out and they experiment on stuff at home and go to other museums and do all that kind of stuff.
What's been the impact of the Space Center on Downey?
I would like to say that it is part of the beating heart of Downey. This is the legacy of this place. The space program, you know, put this city on the map. We were the epicenter of space exploration for many, many years. So this place honors that tradition and brings people to the city to kind of learn about it and get inspired for the next generation.
When you talk about the heartbeat, yeah, this is where they built it.
Yeah. What happened here on site was basically in 1961, somebody said, hey, we want to go to the moon. Here's our basic sort of sketch on how we're going to get there, but it's up to you guys to figure it out. 35,000 people worked here over the next, 7 to 8 years to figure out how to build that stuff to get people up to the moon and back. Those astronauts are driving in hardware that was built and designed right here out of almost nothing.
That is the heartbeat, isn't it?
Yeah.
That the vehicle was created here, otherwise they would not have gotten there.
Exactly.
Well, what kind of obstacles did the people who did that research run into?
Oh my God. The biggest, I think, was time. You know, Kennedy puts down the gauntlet in May of '61. Hey, we're going to go to the moon by the end of the decade.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
And the U.S. had only had 15 minutes of manned spaceflight experience before he said that.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. It's totally insane. So by the time the contract is awarded in November of '61 and the plans get here in Downey, like we were already 2 years into the decade. So the amount of pressure and work that had to go into in a very short amount of time to do this incredible feat was a huge stumbling block and challenge.
Wow. So they come up with a product, a vehicle, and was the first vehicle perfect?
No, not at all. No, I mean, it was years and years of failures and iterations and going back and forth. The very first Apollo actually was destroyed on the launch pad in Florida in '67. That had an incredible impact on the people who worked here. They redesigned the whole thing, and within 18 months, they had the first successful manned flight.
That is quite a history. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then we went on and built the space shuttle, the world's first reusable space vehicle that, worked for 30 years.
And so, the most incredible thing you have here, I see the spacesuit behind you, but the most incredible thing you have here is what?
The people. So, that sounds corny, but it's true. I think the thing that we have here at the Space Center that most other museums don't have is a very close relationship to the people who actually built these vehicles and were on the ground in the space program. And they come out, we have a speaker series that happens once a month. You can come out and meet these people. We've been curating their stories. We try to bring it out in exhibits. That to me is the gold that we have here. Object-wise, we also have a flag that was flown on the moon. That's part of our collection.
Well,
I think that's
kind
cool.
of exciting.
That's
isn't
very
it?
exciting.
Any moon rocks?
No moon rocks. At least, none that I know of.
Most important thing you want to tell people out there is what?
Is that we're open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And anybody can come in here and experience this place. We have fantastic exhibits. We do wonderful programs.
You have an online presence as well?
Absolutely. You can check us out online, columbiaspacescience.org.
All right.
But also the number one thing I want people to learn or to know after leaving this place is that science, technology, and engineering and math is for everyone, and it's really easy to do. So no one should feel scared by it.
Coming up, we'll visit a Downey landmark where locals have been eating since 1962. Welcome to Stock's Bakery, Bar, and Restaurant. Established in 1962, voted by the staff and the people that eat here best breakfast. This place is now 58 years old. The menu, pretty much the same as it was when they first opened. It's really interesting to me how you could have a menu that's been around since 1962. So let's ask the manager here, Kevin Coops. Really, you've had the same menu since 1962?
Same menu siness 1962.
Let's go back around to the
couple of
grill.
little changes.
Yeah. Well, what kind of changes have you had?
We just added 2 and not taking away much. All the recipes are the same for the chicken pot pies and all our home baked pies.
Show us the grill back here.
Yeah, this is our grill. This is Jose. He's been here. Our main line cook's been here for 39 years. Felipe alongside him. We do a huge breakfast business here.
How you doing? Pretty good. Okay. Oh, I smell the bacon. I smell the bacon.
Oh yeah, it's great bacon.
So what is it, some restaurants say they have success on a particular item. What item has been your big success?
Well, our chicken pot pie is one of our main things that this restaurant was founded on. Home baked pies, fresh hamburgers ground daily on the premises.
Yeah. So you've been here for how long?
I've been here for 28 years.
28 years.
Yes.
And so in all that time, you see the same customers all the time?
Oh yeah, every day, sometimes twice a day.
Now you live in Downey.
I live in Bellflower, just right on the border of Downey. Yes.
What do you like about this area?
Oh, I love this area. It's very centrally located to LA and Orange County. It's just a lot going on here. Downey's gone through a lot of changes, but it's all been good right now, and yeah, it's just a great place to live.
When they started this restaurant, nobody knew it. How did it develop the reputation?
Well, it was family owned, home baked pies, like I said. Back in the 60s and 70s, we had the Apollo program right across the street through North American Aviation in Rockwell. And that sustained a lot of businesses around here.
So you got a lot of the workers coming over.
Oh, absolutely. And then the Apollo programs and went into the shuttle program, and a lot of those workers. And then the area started to change, when industry left the city. But now it's revamped, rebuilt, and we're one of the oldest standing restaurants, if not the oldest standing restaurant, in the same location in Downey. So we've sustained all the changes, which has been a blessing for us.
Let me ask you a question, and we'll ask some of your customers. What do you like about Downey? What concerns you about Downey?
What concerns me about Downey? Well, just a lot of people. I mean, it's Southern California. It's a great place to live. Weather's one of the best places in the country.
But you feel it's too
sometimes it gets very congested. Yes, very congested. But Downey itself, yeah, traffic is it's really bad. It can get really horrendous around here, and but that's the price you pay for living in a town like Downey. But it also has a lot of benefits. There's a lot of retail, a lot to do. The beach is close by.
But still a lot of people.
But still a lot of people.
Still a lot of people. Let's go talk to some of the people over here and see exactly what some of them think. What's your name?
Glenn Malmy.
You lived here a long time in Downey?
Since '59.
Well, you have lived here a long time, haven't you?
Yes.
Almost 70 years.
Yes.
What kind of changes have you seen?
Very great increase in population. In fact, the streets now are packed with automobiles just about any time during the day and at night. Even at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, the streets are packed with cars.
Well, let's ask your wife. Hi, I'm Hal Eisner. What's your name?
Linda Malmy.
Linda. What do you think about this town?
I like Downey. I've been here since 1981, and our police department is very quick. Our fire department is very quick, community-oriented. But the traffic is the main thing. We try to stay off the road between 2:30 and 3:30.
It really gets that bad.
In the afternoon, yes, when school lets out. And you notice that a lot of cars are taking the neighborhood streets now. They want to stay off of Florence and Firestone. It's so crowded.
Here's a silly question, but sometimes when you have an increase in the numbers of people, yeah, it creates unintended consequences like worse traffic, but it also brings more money into the community.
That's a good thing. We have Porto's here. The Cuban bakery, it's bringing in a lot of sales tax dollars to Downey. But back in the 50s, you had, North American.
North American Aviation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the bottom line for you is?
The bottom line is that it's community oriented. Everyone, people volunteer a lot, and safety.
You feel safe?
I do. With our police department, I do feel safe.
What's your name?
Edwin Yule.
And you live in Downey.
Absolutely.
How long have you lived here?
9 years.
9 years. What do you think of the place?
I like Downey. So it's
Why?
a diverse area. School system is one of the reasons why we actually moved into the area. My son went to Warren High School, and that was the primary reason for moving out there.
Oftentimes when you live in a community, sometimes you have ups, sometimes you have downs.
Absolutely.
You like it for some reasons. What don't you like about it?
It is the center of LA County, and obviously there's a lot of stuff going on the outskirts around us. But for the most part, I think that,
How's crime?
Yeah. It's you definitely see it from time to time.
Has it seemingly been pervasive?
Yeah, I would say.
Crime?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Does that bother you?
It does.
What are you doing about it?
Well, I've obviously got cameras in my house, making sure that, we're surveilling my area that's close by. So do my neighbors, a few of them in the area. And we kind of, neighborhood commute together like that.
Now, that's not an indictment on the community.
Absolutely not.
It's kind of a fact of life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we live in Southern California. The more people that there are in the community, usually the more issues you're going to have.
Wow, that was interesting. Some nice people as well, and bacon smelled great. We've got more from Downey, and we'll see you right after the break. That's it from Downey for this edition of Fox 11 News in Depth 52 and 52, visiting 52 communities in 52 weeks. And next week, we'll take it to Tarzana, named for a legendary literary character. Can you guess who? How is it that Tarzan and Edgar Rice Burroughs connect to this community of Tarzana?
Edgar Rice Burroughs always envisioned being a gentleman farmer. He moved from the Chicago area, having written some of these books, but when the first one, Tarzan of the Apes, finally sold for a very low price, he achieved his dream of moving his family out to this area because they were starting to talk about movie rights.
The creator of that character was one of the notable founders of this community. And while that is part of Tarzana's past, so is this place, a grove of sweet oranges. But will its future be sweet or sour?
When you walk out there, there is that history. You see the barn where they, processed the oranges. You see the train tracks that they used inside there. That was, part of this history. You talk to the neighbors, and you learn about what this means to the community.
We'll talk about the controversy raised by the designation of this slice of yesteryear as a historic monument, while the family that owns it wants to sell it to developers. Thanks for joining us. I'm Hal Eisner. Have a great week, everybody.